Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Beth Vincent and I am with Our Companions Animal Rescue. And we are here today to present to you Parenting with Pets, which is a presentation about families with dogs, with toddlers, and how to keep them safe. So the first thing that I would like to do is thank everybody for taking the time and being here for this information. You are taking the first steps in becoming dog aware. All right, so let's get started. Alrighty, preparing for families with dogs for life with toddler on the move. All right, so we do have to get this slide out of the way. This presentation is for educational purposes only. This does not replace supervision, so please always supervise your dogs and your children. And hopefully with this presentation, we are going to give you the tools to do just that. Throughout this presentation, we're going to start to learn how to understand our dogs better, start to be able to improve our how to speak dog skills, and we're going to start to develop happy dog and toddler relationships, and we're going to learn about some management skills. So I like to start here with this slide because I just think this slide really says a lot. There's a lot of times you hear, my dog would never bite. The dogs that are biting are bad dogs, aggressive dogs, maybe loose dogs, or maybe you've heard it's probably the kids. The kids were teasing the dog or tormenting the dog. And the facts and the reality is that is just not true. These are good dogs. These are good kids. It is miscommunications, right? And if you look at this slide, I mean, just look at that second number. 50% of our children are going to be bitten by the age of 12. I'm sorry, that's an unacceptable number, and that is a number that we can change. I don't want you to be a statistic. So let's get right into this information and start changing that number. So where do we start? I think a great place to start is with our dog skills. Maybe some of you have already been to a class, learning some skills, some manners with your dogs. Maybe you have not. But either way, it's a great starting point to start building your how to speak dog skills and giving your dog some tools as well. I would also like you to start asking the question and starting to look and observe your dogs and starting to be a little bit curious. And how well do you really know your dogs? I want you to start and look at your dog and start looking at this list and see how does your dog respond to these different things. So let's look at sounds, for instance. Different sounds, maybe doorbells. What does your dog do? Maybe fireworks, maybe thunder, maybe just loud noises from a car. When those different sounds go off, what does that look like for your dog? How do they respond to that? Because, right, if we have toddlers in our home, guess what? We're going to have a lot of noises. It could be quiet 1 second, and there could be screaming the next second. There could be toys that go flying around, and the toys themselves makes lots of different noises. What about moving objects? If something were to move quickly by your dog, how do they respond to that? What does that look like? So really starting to come from a place of curiosity and looking at the body language that your dog is exhibiting when different things are going on. What about new objects, novel objects? Because, right, we have kids in our home. There's going to be a lot of new toys, new objects that are coming in. What does that look like for your dog? That's what we really need to start asking the question. Because maybe it's balls, right? Maybe your dog loves to chase balls. Well, how does that look? What is that going to look like if your toddler is out in the yard playing with a ball, playing with bubbles? When we know this information, that's how we can intervene and we can help keeping all those interactions safe. Does your dog have experience with different visitors? And when visitors do come over, what does that look like? How does your dog act? Are they loose? Are they wiggly? Are they happy? Or do they back away? Are they scared? Are they fearful? What about children? Does your dog have experience being around children? And how does that look like? What about other dogs? If you're out on a walk and a dog comes walking past you, what does your dog do? Are they super excited? Like, oh my gosh, I have to go meet that other dog? Or do they get scared? Do they back away? Do they bark? Do they growl? Really starting to ask these questions so we can help support our dogs better. And I really like this slide because I think it's really important. Having realistic expectations on what the relationship with our dogs and our children should actually be. And I want to give everybody permission to take it slow. And if you think you're going slow, guess what? You can go slower. The expectation that our kids and our dogs have to be friends overnight and they need to be best friends overnight, that is not true. I don't care what family, friends, and the programs show, they don't need to be friends overnight. Great relationships take time. It is our job as the adults to protect our children and to protect our dogs. And right, toddlers do unusual human behavior. And sometimes as adults, we have a hard time understanding all the things that they may do, right? Our dogs definitely don't understand that. So it's our job to keep them both safe. Our dogs are relying on us to understand their feelings. Our children are relying on us. So a great starting point is to start learning about management. And what is management and what is it good for? Management is success stations. It's where our dogs and our children have no other means but to succeed. And what is it good for? Absolutely everything. And we can start to implement this in our daily lives. And it's actually going to give the adults a chance to breathe for a second, right? Because you don't want to be on 100% of the time. You might need a break. So by putting your dog maybe behind a baby gate, that gives you a second to kind of relax and breathe for a moment, knowing that your dog is safe and knowing that your child is safe. Here is a great picture of management, right? And it allows for inclusion without close interaction. And I need to say that again, inclusion without close interaction. That's super important. And it's, if you look at the dogs, they're eating, the children are behind a baby gate, and this is a really great baby gate because it's a mesh style. That way there's no holes for little hands to poke through. There's a parent there, right? So there's a parent that's aware of everything that's going on. The dogs are able to eat in peace without being bothered. The children are behind the other side. That is a great example to implement management. And it's safe, right? And it's happy. And that's really important when we are implementing management, is to really be aware of both sides, right? Communication is both sides. And looking at our dogs, are they happy? Are they relaxed? And if you have a management set up like this, baby gates, and your dogs are stressed, maybe they're pacing, maybe they're not happy, guess what? They don't have to have that management right there in the middle of everything that's going on. It can be set back a little bit so they're more comfortable. Here's another great picture, right? Who doesn't like a picture of their toddler with their dog? It's a beautiful setup. But if we step back a little bit and look at this picture, Does that dog really look happy? And when we're talking about our dogs and we're talking about the interactions our dogs have with our kids, we want our dogs to spend most of their time being relaxed and neutral and happy. And if you look at this dog's body language, he's pulling away, his mouth is closed shut, and he's doing with his eyes what's known as whale eyes. So he has one eye on the toddler that's leaning on him, and he has one eye looking away because he's like, whoa, this is too much. So that's a super tolerant dog. And I'm sure everybody has heard people say, oh, my kids can do anything, right? They can dress my dog up. They can play doctor. They can put my dog on the swing. Maybe they, depending on the size of your dog, they ride my dog. My dog's fine with it. Are they though? Are your dogs fine with it? Or are your dogs just tolerating it? Our dogs should not have to tolerate it, right? Just because they do doesn't mean they should have to. And again, this is our job as the adults. And right, as adults, we don't tolerate everything. Why do we expect our dogs to tolerate everything? We really want to focus on having every interaction between your child and your dog being happy, relaxed interactions. And if you look at it like a cup of coffee, right? Maybe your dog's tolerating that. Well, what about the day when that cup just gets a little bit too full and one interaction too many has happened and your dog has done all these signs to say, please, I need some space, and we haven't listened? There's only one way that our dog has left to communicate that they've had enough, and that's when their cup spills over. And for our dogs, that could mean a bite. And we want to do everything we can to not have that happen. We want to listen to those low levels of communication and start to understand when our dogs are telling us that they are not happy. So how do we do that? We want to start getting familiar with some dog body language. And the way that I always like to start this conversation, and I would like everybody that's listening to think about their dog and then get a picture in their head. What does my dog look like when they are happy and when they're relaxed and when they're neutral? So I'm going to give everybody a second to think about that. So the reason why I like everybody to start there is because when you know what your dog looks like when they're happy and they're relaxed, you're going to start to be able to pick up on those subtle signs that they show you that maybe they're not so happy. And if you picture it like a ladder, right? Low level signs of discomfort and stress are at the bottom rung of that ladder. We want to intervene before things escalate. So some of those signs could be as subtle as lipping. Again, that avoidance, maybe turning away, maybe a really slowed, like a slow motion movements, yawning. Everything is contextual when you're looking at this. So if you look at the dog on the right, his ears are really pulled back tight. He appears to be doing a really big yawn. That's stress. That's your dog's way of saying, hey, something's going on I'm a little unsure about. The dog on the left, right, his ears look like they're in a neutral state. His eyes look soft. His mouth is open. And he looks loose. He looks happy. That's what we want to have, and that's where we want to keep our dogs always. And especially when we're dealing with children, that's where we want to keep our dogs. So the next couple slides we're just going to do have some pictures just to start getting you familiar with some of the communication styles that our dogs do. So here's a couple of pictures of some fearful, nervous dogs. If you look at the dog on the right, he's crouched down, trying to make himself look really, really small. He has his tail tucked way under. His ears are plastered to the side of his head, and there's a hand reaching down in front of him. That's kind of rude to have a hand just kind of shoved right into your face. So now that we know that, we could step back and we could give that dog the space that that dog needs to feel comfortable. The dog on the left side, right, his ears are kind of pressed tight. His mouth is closed really, really tight. And if you look at his eyes again, that's that whale eyes. He has one eye looking on, and we can't see it in this picture, but he has one eye looking at something that's really concerning to him, and he's looking away at the same time. Starting to get familiar with some of these signals: the tail tucked, the paw lift, maybe presenting the stomach. Have you ever been around a dog and it rolls over and presents its stomach and people go, oh, he wants a belly rub? Does he though? It's important to look at the whole body with that. A good motto that I like to stick with is I never rub a dog's belly that I don't have a relationship with. Right? So if a dog just automatically rolls over and presents his stomach and his body is tight, that's your dog's way of saying, hey, I mean you no harm. So we don't want to rub their belly in that situation. If you come home, you have a relationship with the dog and the dog is super loose and wiggly and rolls over, that's a whole different story. But being able to recognize the whole picture when we're looking at the dog and looking at the environment and what's going on around that is super important. So here again, if you look at these dogs, right, the mouth is closed really tight and his eyes look really hard, really stiff. And what's known as a freeze, where your dog almost looks like they've stopped breathing, that's higher up on that ladder. The next step is there could be a bite. We never want to get this high up on that communication ladder because this is dangerous. We don't want our dogs to feel like they have to handle it. We want to intervene. We are our dog's advocate, and our dogs are relying on us to understand their feelings. And this is a critical skill to have if you have kids and you have a dog. Our dogs are talking to us all the time. They're talking with their ears, their eyes, their mouth, their tail, their whole body. Spend some time and start watching your dog and look at what they're actually saying. Now here is a great example of a happy dog. He looks loose, his ears look like they're in their natural position, his tongue is hanging out, nice and loose and happy, right? That's what we want. We want happy dogs, loose dogs, wiggly dogs, soft eyes. Does everybody know what that looks like with their dog? Have you seen that with your dog? So there's a few things that I really want to drive home, and I want you guys, if you take away anything, there's certain things that I really want you to walk away with from this presentation. This is one of them. Becoming best friends takes time. Great relationships don't happen overnight. So let's start building up short and successful inclusion sessions. And when I say inclusion without close interactions. So if you look at this picture, this is a great example. There's a dog and a toddler on the scene, and guess who is in between? That's right, an adult. And that's how it should always look like. Dog and child on scene, an adult in between, always. And look at this. She's reading a book. What a great way to spend some quality time, relaxed time, and happy time. There's no pressure involved here. All parties are having fun. What about baking some cookies, right? Dogs like cookies. Kids like to help. You could set up, you guys could pick out a recipe and you could make some cookies for your dogs. And obstacle courses. I mean, who doesn't like an obstacle course? you could set that up and, right, same rules apply. Dog and child on scene, a parent in between. So maybe the kid goes through and sets up the obstacle course, parents there, and they both help the dog go through the obstacle course. All parties are having fun. Another great fun game to play is fetch with manners. There's a lot of other games and ideas that we have that can really promote building relationships. So another thing that we really need to talk about and be aware of is the distance and how the interactions go with our dogs and our toddlers, right? So as our children grow, the activity level is going to change. The types of activities they do is going to change, right? There's going to be more movements. There's going to be a lot of different interacting with toys. And again, the noise level could be really loud. The toys could be really loud. And, right, some of our dogs don't understand the concept of personal space. Well, guess what? Sometimes toddlers don't understand the concept of personal space. And I like this picture because it really kind of shows really well how the comfort level changes. So if you look at picture 1, toddlers in the background, we have no idea how loud the toy is or how loud the toddler is, but there's quite a bit of distance, and the dog looks happy. He looks relaxed, right? His mouth is loose. His ears appear to be in a neutral position. And as you start to go through these pictures to slide 2, the toddler is coming closer, and you can see his mouth is open, so I'm certain that there's some yelling and screaming going on. But the distance is closing in on the dog. So now if you look, his mouth is now closed. His ears are starting to go down. Slide 3, his head is a little bit lower. He's turning away a little bit more. Toddler is closer, and then in slide 4, the toddler is even closer. Look at the difference between slide 1 and slide 4. The comfort level of that dog. He went from happy, relaxed, to very stressed, very uncertain of what's going on, and that distance closed. So it's really important, again, dog and toddler on scene, parent in between. Toddlers are fast, and things can change very fast. So it's really important to be aware of that. That way we can adjust at every stage. So starting to notice some of the new behaviors that our dogs may show. So again, we want to come from a place of curiosity. One thing that I always like to start with is if you're noticing a new behavior in your dog that's never been, is asking the question first, right? Could it be medical? So I really feel like a first stop needs to be a vet check just to ensure there's nothing medical going on. There's no pain involved. Once that's been cleared, starting to ask questions, we really need to start being curious. When did the behavior start? When did these behaviors happen? And looking around in your environment and starting to ask yourself, what might be happening and what might be going on? These are really key elements to understanding what's happening. So just to use an example, maybe your dog is resting, they're loose, they're relaxed, and then all of a sudden they start yawning, or maybe they start doing some lip licking. Stepping back and asking, geez, what's going on? And maybe a child just flew from your coffee table to your couch because the living room is hot lava. That may not have happened for you yet, but if you have a toddler, your living room will become hot lava. So we want to start asking these questions. Another really important thing is our kids are watching us all the time. So just because we have a relationship with our dog and we could do something with our dog, right? Maybe I could pick my dog up. And they may be okay with that. But what if the toddler that's watching me sees me do that? Would my dog be okay if they came by and picked picked them up? I don't think they would. So being aware of that the close interactions and the close relationship that we have with our dog, and right, thinking about it, we've had a relationship with our dog. We've built a bond with our dog. Our toddler does not have that bond yet. So we want to be very aware of how we're interacting with our dogs, right? Monkey see, monkey do. Awesome. So here's some great, we're going to go through a few things, some really great teachable moments. Teaching our children invites decrease bites, right? And we can do that as adults. Great example, right, of modeling the behavior that we want to see. If our dogs get up and walk away, we don't need to follow them. Let's give them space, and we can model that behavior for our children and start to teach our children that. And that's part of helping to keep them safe. Another great example, because who doesn't want to hug a cute, fluffy little dog? Or even a cute, fluffy big dog, right? They look soft. I want to go hug them. How about we start teaching our kids, hug a Stuffie, not a Fluffy. This was a great informative point that I got out of the Family Paws course that I took. Hug a Stuffie, not a Fluffy. And teaching our kids, if they have the urge, that's where that's gonna go. Dogs don't like hugs. So this is going to have a video after it, but it's teaching our children how to actually start petting a dog. And it starts to teach them with kindness and compassion. And the way it's going to start with an adult-initiated consent test. And if our dogs say yes, then we're going to continue. So we're going to look at a short video, and then we'll be right back. So, would you like to learn how to pet your dog the right way?
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to do an activity that's called guided touch, and it's a great activity that you can start to teach your children as soon as they show interest in wanting to interact with the dog. So the purpose of this is it teaches them to be gentle and it teaches them to be kind. So the way that we're going to start is we're going to do palm to palm, right? So the child's palm is going to be in yours, because as they're developing their motor skills, sometimes they can be really fast and they may grab. So this is a great way to teach them to be gentle. And then what we do, we start with a pet pause, because we also want to ask the dog's permission if it's okay to be pet. So you want to try it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're just going to go from neck to right here to like shoulders. We're not going to touch their butt, and we're not going to touch the top of their head.
Do you want to pet the doggy with me? Yeah.
All right. There you go. Ready?
So pet. Pet. Pause.
Perfect. So if our friend walked away, what do you think we would do?
I don't know.
Do you think we would wait and see if he came back later?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We wouldn't chase after him, right?
No.
No. So what if he came back and leaned into you?
I don't know.
How about you could do another guided touch with your mom?
Do you want to pet him again?
Nice. That's beautiful.
My son touches him and it just feels really soft.
Yeah, that was awesome. You did a great job. Awesome. So that was a great video of guided touch. All right, so let's start to talk about respecting our dogs and respecting their possessions and respecting their space. And that's no different than us humans, right? We like our stuff respected. We like our resting spots respected. We wouldn't appreciate people coming into our space. So let's start to teach our dogs that. right? So here's just a couple great pictures. If our dog is in a crate resting, or they're in their success station resting, let them be. And let's teach our children to respect that space. It is not cute to see a child crawl into a crate with a dog. It is unsafe. How about when the dog is playing with toys? That's their time. Great example would be putting up a baby gate and use your management so your dog can play in peace, right? Because kids can be fast. How about if they're eating? Do they get to eat in peace? What about when you're eating? Would you like somebody to rip food off of your plate? No, I don't think so. Right? So let's start teaching our children to respect their dog's space and their possessions. So a topic that we do need to talk about is resource guarding and what it is. So resource guarding is when dogs feel the need to protect a resource that they find of value. A lot of common items are toys, food, maybe spaces, but really it could be anything. If you feel like you have a dog that is a resource guarder, we can get into that topic more. So please definitely call the Our Companions helpline. The number is listed here, and we can give you more one-on-one support with that, because resource guarding can be a very dangerous behavior. And we would love to help you with that if that is a concern that you have. And what does that mean? Resource guarding and toddlers and what that looks like, right? Toddlers pick up everything. They like to explore everywhere. They like to climb. They're still learning how to share, and they're on the move constantly. They're fast. These are all examples of how we could institute management to keep our toddlers safe and to keep our dogs safe, right? We need to protect our dogs so they're not stressed. Again, remember, we want our dogs to be happy and feel safe. We want our toddlers to be happy and to be safe. And we want to start teaching our children how to speak dog. Because when our kids start to understand that dogs have feeling as well, they can start learn when to stay and when to walk away. And these are just some examples of supervision, right? Because we've mentioned about supervision. And just because you're in a room with a child and with a dog doesn't mean that there's supervision, right? What if you were laying down taking a nap? You're not really seeing what's going on. Or maybe you're multitasking, right? Because life's busy, right? We have phone calls, we have emails, lots of stuff going on. Or maybe you're reacting, right? You were busy doing something, and then all of a sudden something happened, and then you respond after the dog or the child got too close. We want to really avoid those type of situations. What we really want to focus on is planning and preparing for that safe separation. So thinking about things like, what if the doorbell rang? Where's my dog going to be? Where's my toddler going to be? Maybe if the doorbell rings, maybe your toddler comes with you. Maybe your dog goes behind a baby gate. But starting to ask those questions before something happens. And again, the best type of supervision is active supervision, meaning dog and child on scene, parent in between, always. That is the safest type of supervision that there is. It keeps all parties safe, right? Because it takes a second. Anybody who has kids or has dogs know that things can happen really fast. So again, I'm going to say it again. Never leave your dog and your toddler alone, not even for 1 second. Have a plan. Sit down and start running through a few different scenarios and asking yourself, where is my dog going to be if I have to go and use the bathroom? What if I have to answer the door? What if I have a bunch of emails to answer? What does that look like? And practicing it before you need it. That way you become pros at it, and it's just going to become second nature, and you're not even going to worry about it. The doorbell is going to ring. You're already going to have a plan in place. So another topic that we need to just kind of talk about and get everybody aware and familiar with is grumble and growl zones, right? So crowded spaces equal grumpy faces. So if you look at some of these pictures, these are really typical crowded spaces that can lead to danger. You have a dog that's resting under the table, right? That's a really crowded space. If you look, you could see some toddler feet hanging off of the chair. What if something fell from the table and your toddler had to go under the table? Right? That could be a really bad setup for disaster. Does the dog have a way to get out of that space? He does, but right, maybe he's comfortable, maybe he's resting, and just because a dog has a way out of a space doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get up and just leave. Doorways, those are tight spaces. Here's another one. The dog's under the coffee table, between the couch. Again, tight spaces. Kids could come by fast. The dog is sleeping. He's tired. Really starting to be aware of those spaces and how we can be proactive. And really starting to acknowledge that our babies are growing and our dogs are aging, and what this looks like today is going to adjust at every stage. So this is going to be a picture that's constantly changing. So looking at these pictures, right, we talked about the picture on the right earlier without actually seeing this picture. Some people may think that looks really cute, right? Little boy is in with his dog. That's not cute. And if you look at that dog, does he really look happy? He doesn't. He looks like he has his paw lifted. His ears are pulled tight back against his head. His mouth is closed shut. That's just not cute. So when we talk about, right, because as adults, we may need a break and we might want to get out for the evening and get some time away just to recoup. So we may have a babysitter. Maybe we have our grandparents coming over. If that's the case and you have sitters or grandparents coming over, their only worry needs to be eyes on the toddler, right? So we can totally set up a different management system for the dogs. That way, whoever's watching your children, they only need to worry about keeping your child safe. And who doesn't want to go on a walk, right? The weather's getting nice. Going out for a walk, it's a great bonding, it's a great relationship building thing. But let's do it safely. So if you look at the picture on the right, how cute is that? The little boy is walking his dog. That's great. A safer setup, maybe you have a second leash on that dog where an adult is holding it. Because if that dog was to see something, maybe a squirrel, and run fast, he really could pull that little boy right off his feet. The picture on the left, right? Mom's pushing the stroller and holding the leash. That is a great time, right? A great moment out and enjoying, but a safer option, maybe there's a second adult holding that dog, right? That way, whatever comes along on their walk, mom doesn't need to worry about the safety of both the baby and the dog. So the takeaway on this slide is an adult hand always needs to be on the leash. Always. It's just a safe way to do it. And starting to ask the question about our dogs, right? Are their needs being met? Dogs require a lot of sleep. Are they getting enough sleep? Right? If you have toddlers running around, your house could be very noisy. So having a place for your dogs to get some of that downtime. Are they still getting their exercise needs met? And exercise doesn't always have to be walks. It could be mental enrichment, Kongs, puzzles. So let's start asking those questions. And then, right, do you need extra help? I find that family and friends do want to offer help. And guess what? It is okay to take them up on their help. If somebody asks you if you need help, maybe you need somebody to take your dog for a walk for you. That's okay, right? Maybe you need more help with training your dogs. Take advantage of a positive reinforcement training class. Maybe you have friends or neighbors that want to help. There's doggy daycare. If you have a nice social dog, daycare would be a great opportunity for your dog to get a break and have some dog time with some of his doggy friends, and it's also going to give you a break. So we're towards the end of our presentation, and we went over a lot of information. So I wanted to kind of recap a little bit as far as what are you walking away from this presentation? And here's some mantras that I really feel are really important to walk away with if you walk away with anything. Again, toddler and dog on scene, there is a parent in between always. Let's start teaching our kids about invites, right? Invites decrease bites. Let's invite our dogs in. Talking about monkey see, monkey do, right? We want to model the behavior that we want our children to have. So we need to start interacting with our dogs safely so our children learn how to interact with our dogs safely. Crowded spaces equal grumpy faces. Looking at your house and looking at the setups and can you change it so, right? Can you set up management or change some of the setups so you don't have those crowded spaces? And really important, relationships take time. Drop all the expectations and take it slow. And again, if you think you're going slow, go even slower, and that's okay. You can have inclusion without close interactions. Let's be safe. And again, let's start teaching our children to help understanding that dogs also have feelings, right? And they can start to learn, again, when to stay and when to walk away. And that's really the best protection that you can give them and you can give your dog. So what are the next steps? Set up an introductory private session with me and we can go over more ways that are specific to you and your family of how to safely parent with pets. Awesome. So we're gonna. Awesome. So that was a really great presentation, and I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy day to start taking the first steps in keeping your dogs and your children safe. I look forward to hearing from you and setting up a introductory session to work with you. Awesome. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you again.